Sometimes in the course of studying philosophy, a person might get a bit frustrated and they'll express themselves by saying things like, I don't understand any of it. And there's some variations on that. I've had a lot of students who will come and say, whether in office hours or in emails, I just don't get it about something. And another variant on that is I have no idea what's going on. So I've been getting those sorts of statements, let's just call them, maybe please, we could also say, because the person is not just giving me an objective report about themselves. They're saying it because there's something going on with them and they want some help. I have gotten this for many, many years, really since I started teaching, actually since I started tutoring back as an undergraduate. So now we're talking over 30 years, right? Students have said this sort of thing to me. I've had clients occasionally saying things about texts that they wanted to work on together. Other people that are just sort of, attending my talks and something comes up, they'll say, I just can't understand so-and-so. And I get a lot of comments like this as well, mostly in YouTube, in part because that's where my biggest presence is, and people will write comments, or sometimes they'll say this in the course of AMAs, but also occasionally in my other social media or in Substack, and they might be responding to me posting a resource about a certain thinker in text, and they'll say, I just don't understand this at all. And my response to them is almost invariably, well, that can't be true. Because literally speaking, it's impossible that you don't understand anything, that you don't get anything, that you can't wrap your head around anything. There must be at least something, like the fact that this person wrote this text, the most trivial matters that you can at least say, yes, I do understand that. So the sort of universalizing, totalizing, hyperbolizing, however you want to put it, big claim in capital letters, I just don't get it, can't literally be true. And so, we could stop there and say, come back when you've got something better to work with. Don't, lie to me about things. But that would be very unjust. Instead, what we want to say is, well, what's actually going on here? What is behind this global feeling of I just don't get it and I feel helpless or resourceless or like I can't make any progress? By the way, an idea that goes way, way back, the Greeks called that aporia, right? Literally going into a place that you can't then find your way through. There's no poros, no path, no exit, no way to get through. We call this a cul-de-sac when it happens to be for houses and subdivisions here in America. So students will say that kind of thing. And like I said, I will say, okay, there must be something that you actually do get. Now, here's the first thing. You can do this on your own. You don't have to have me say this to you. You can, instead of, I'll say, instead of and after saying, oh, I just can't get it at all, it doesn't make any sense, you can back up a little bit and say, well, clearly that's not the case across the board. What do I actually get about this? So, let's say that you're reading Aristotle's Metaphysics because you've taken that on and you don't understand how the four causes actually work with each other, with every kind of substance, and you're like, oh my gosh, this doesn't make any sense. No, it does make sense. You know that Aristotle thinks there's four causes. You know what those four causes are, kind of, in a way. You probably can rattle them off, but you're worried about the fact that you can't say exactly what a formal cause is or what a final cause is, and that's okay, right? But you do know something, and you don't just know a something, you know a whole bunch of somethings about it. If you're reading a text, you at least understand the words at some level. Maybe you don't understand every single word, and maybe you need to go to a glossary or look at the word up somewhere else to get a sense of what the term means. But you know what the word the means, or the word and, or a lot of the verbs in the thing that you're reading. So you can't say, oh, I don't get any of it. None of this makes any sense. Focus for a while on, well, what actually does make sense? What do you actually know or understand, or at least have some vague sense of? And if you do that, well, not only are you helping yourself out in terms of being able to make some progress with it, you'll also figure out where the areas are, the borders between what you do understand and what you don't understand. And that will help you when you want to figure out, how do I make any progress with the parts that I don't understand, how to identify those, how to, on a map, figure out where the terra incognita parts are in relation to the terra cognita, the parts that you actually do know, the lands that you've been in. That's going to be really helpful for you. And it might also restore a bit of confidence, because I think when people say stuff like this, there's a feeling of, I don't know what to do. I'm not good at this, people will often say. And then, I think that when it comes to what you feel or think you don't understand at all, there's some things that you could do that would probably help you out. You could think about, am I setting the bar too high for myself for what counts as knowing or understanding? Do I, place a burden upon my shoulders that perhaps nobody else is doing, or I have some jerk professor who's doing but not probably living up to it themselves, or some person giving me bad advice on the internet is putting on my shoulders. It's your choice. You don't have to be a perfectionist about these sorts of things. That's a personal choice on your part at some level, right? And if you realize that you are being rather perfectionistic about things, well, now you know what you want to work on. Don't worry about whether you can read the, Mary Wollstonecraft or Lev Shestov or Rene Descartes. Worry first about your own perfectionism and why you're driven to do that. You might also realize that what you mean when you say, I don't get it, or I don't understand anything, is that you do get a lot of stuff, but you don't quite get the big picture, how all the things that you do, in fact, understand, how they fit together into some sort of comprehensive system or perspective or view or school or tradition. And that could be in part because they don't actually fit together, right? It's possible, with some philosophers at least, that there's incoherence in what they're doing. And the reason why you don't get it on that high level is because they kind of didn't get it and maybe fool themselves into thinking they get it. With many philosophers, there is a sort of overarching picture that we can enter into and understand, but that doesn't happen overnight. And just because you're reading a book for the first time, or an essay, or whatever it's going to be, doesn't mean you automatically see how all the different parts fit together. So that's an important consideration. I would also say a lot of people trip themselves up because they approach philosophy on the basis of something else that they already are familiar with, which is a different discourse or discipline. And I'll give you a few examples of this. So quite a few people have models that are taken from playing video games, or even, tabletop role-playing games or other kinds of games like that. And you get yourself in trouble when you think that somehow you're leveling up, or there are clear signs for how you're actually making progress, or that there's anything like XP in philosophy, or that, the real test is you go and debate other people. No, all of that stuff is nice for the gamey world, but most of it doesn't apply to philosophy. If you're in a discipline like engineering or mathematics or some of the natural sciences, you might approach philosophy like, okay, I just need to figure out what the axioms are and how the things fit together, and then we'll make continual progress, and here's the prerequisites for this. No. That's not the way philosophy works. Or at least that's not the way most philosophy works. It's deeper than that. I mean, you may be used to doing things like that, but that doesn't mean that that's the way you should approach philosophical texts. You read Plato's Republic, you're not going to master Plato's Republic and then move on to Plato's other works. No, you're going to read it and be confused about a good bit of it, and perhaps that'll be due partly to the translation that you're reading, which is written by some Oxfordy stuffy guy who uses weird language that you're not used to, but also because it's deep thoughts, and you're going to have to work at it and make progress. And so, approaching philosophy using models taken from other places might not be that helpful. And you can't even necessarily take a particular model of philosophy, a meta-philosophy from within the discipline of philosophy and say, everything else in philosophy should be like this. Not everything is going to be the way that Aristotelians like it, or Cartesians, or Kantians, or whoever else, right? So, you want to be attuned to that. And I think that a lot of people view understanding or knowledge as something like an on-off switch, like the light bulb goes off in your head. And when it comes to complex matters that are being looked at in depth and from a number of different sides, and often quite dialectically, it's a cumulative process. So you may feel right now that I don't understand anything. No, you understand a lot, and you just don't know how it all fits together. And maybe down the line, you'll have a better sense of that. But you don't want to just retreat into that, I don't understand, sort of whatever you want to call it, emotional response. And so moving on, I think that it could be very helpful for those who are tempted to say these sorts of things to think about why you chose to frame the situation that way. When you know that it's actually false, saying that I just don't get any of it, that's false, right? So why would you say that sort of thing? Are you prone to hyperbolic statements about things? Well, maybe you need to work on that before you study philosophy, before you study anything, because that's a real problem. And if you're swinging from one extreme to the other and you're telling people stories that have to do with all or nothing like that, you're telling stories to yourself and you're getting in your own way. So you might want to work on that and figure out why you're so prone to that. Maybe it has to do with the culture you grew up in, or your parents, or expectations that were put on you. Maybe it's the stupid friends you hang out with, right, and listen to, who also share that sort of thing. You also want to dissociate, to some degree, the feeling of not getting things from the actual judgment that you're not getting things. Those aren't the same, right? And you might want to look into how your emotions play into this. You might be using, I don't get any of it, as an expression of, say, frustration or irritation. You don't like what the person's saying. It doesn't make sense to you because of that, even though it could make sense to you on some level. Or it could be fears or anxieties. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not smart enough to understand philosophy. What'll people think of me if I can't explain Kant or Leibniz or Hume in an adequate way? And I'm studying philosophy. They'll laugh at me, right? It could actually even all be the emotion of envy. It seems like those people over there get it. I don't like the fact that I don't get it. You don't know that they actually do get it. A lot of them are probably pretending that they understand more than they do. You might also have some unreasonable expectations lurking in the background that you need to bring out and question. And I think that a lot of people have a sort of knee-jerk reaction. I'm not getting it. I need some strategies. I need some techniques. I need some whatever it's going to be, when really what you need to do is back up and figure out why you have framed the problem in this way, when you could have framed it in more realistic ways that would probably be to your benefit. It's a psychological issue that you would want to explore. And there's lots of ways that you could probably do that. I do want to point out 3 other things before I bring this to a close. So some texts are not going to be particularly welcoming to beginners or even people moving from beginning to intermediate level. If you think that you're going to jump into Hegel's phenomenology and you're like, I've got, Dr. Sadler's half-hour Hegel series, that'll help me with it. It's still a damn hard text. Hegel is not a great writer. It's very complicated thought. He doesn't tell you who he's referring to 99% of the time. And you got a whole bunch of idiots out there giving you bad advice on the internet who claim that they're Hegelians or, they know something about Hegel, and they don't, right? So you're setting yourself up for failure doing that. A lot of people are like, I've got to read Kant's First Critique. Well, who says you got to read it? Why are you believing these people over here who are saying you got to read that right now? Why not start with things that are a bit more readily available? So the Plato's Apology doesn't really take that much, and it's a deep text, right? Even Plato's Republic, you're probably going to make more progress with that than you are going to with Aristotle's Metaphysics, diving right into that, or Heidegger's Being and Time, or Hegel's Phenomenology, let alone the science of logic, or Spinoza's Ethics, right? I think that you don't want to be taking cues from online or in-person pretentious, whatever we want to call them, posers, pseuds. There's a lot of terms out there for these people who talk a lot about philosophy, but they're not really studying philosophy. You can, find lots of things that you can read and make sense of. And by the way, you don't have to ever fully understand Spinoza's Ethics or Kant's First Critique. Your life could be very rich, very complete without that. So anybody who's telling you, you must read this and read this early on, they're full of crap, right? So there's that part right there. I think you want to build realistically on what you actually can. So this goes back to what do you actually understand? Build upon that. Don't say, I just don't get it, which is false. Say, I do get this and this and this. What can I do with that at this point in time? What can I add to that over time? And I think, the last thing that I'll say is it's really important to make distinctions for yourself between, say, not getting it and getting it a bit, but not fully getting it, and being able to say, yes, I truly understand this, and other gradations in between. Because again, that is more realistic. It's not like getting it is an on-off switch, not at least for philosophy. Maybe for some things in life it is, but it's not for philosophical texts and thinkers and topics. So if you find yourself saying things, I just don't understand any of this, back up. Figure out what made you want to say something that is false. What are you possibly getting out of that? And would you like to do something a bit different? Those are the questions I think that'll be very useful for you when you're tempted to say that thing, or even after you've already said it to somebody and they've said something like, well, obviously you've gotten something. That could be a really useful philosophical approach for making some progress in developing your own understanding in relation to philosophy.